Good morning. It is Halloween today, so I put on my fun ears to go with my Haunted Mansion themed office this morning while I record this. Uh, Hoping that we can stay awake after kind of a rough night last night and actually do some trick or treating tonight. So, wanted to get a video done this morning, and today I wanted to talk a little bit on egg donation and our egg donation program here at Compass. So, first off, my name is Karen, and I am owner and CEO of Compass Family Journeys. And then I'm a mom through the IVF process. So, my husband and I did IVF to conceive our two kiddos. And I'm also a 5-time egg donor and a 3-time surrogate. And so I have kind of rolled into this professional side of everything of third party reproduction from my own experiences. And one of the things that I wanted to do was create a program for known egg donation, which is essentially just it's the process of donation looks the same for women. However, it's having that common goal in mind with intended parents of actually knowing each other and keeping those lines of communication open in the present time, but also into the future for the benefit of the offspring from your donation. So, what is egg donation? So, on just a very basic level, I guess, of understanding, it's basically the process of stimulating egg production within your ovaries as a donor to produce a larger number of eggs. So, typically, you only ovulate one, maybe two eggs, depending on how the cycle goes. But the idea of egg donation is to actually produce multiple uh, eggs at once, and then the doctor would go in and retrieve them through a simple surgical procedure that is very quick, and you're sleeping during it. But it's basically using those eggs that are produced by that cycle that will then be utilized to create embryos that a set of parents can use for conceiving a child either on their own or through the surrogacy process. So with Compass, we only facilitate known egg donations, which I talked about a little bit just on the last slide. But basically, it's just we want to make sure that there's this mutual understanding between the donor and the intended parents, that everyone is on board with any future donor offspring, understanding their origins and where they came from, and making sure that those lines of communication are open for the benefits of the future offspring from the donation. With donation, there's three very broad basic steps that I wanted to go over. So the first is going to be the qualifying and matching stage of it. And so this is really where we look at everything and we get you qualified for the process as a potential donor. So we're going to look at your health history, your genetic history, and I basically put all those puzzle pieces together to qualify you as a candidate to then be able to match you. Then step two, once you're matched, we would actually roll into the screening, the full medical screening portion of it, as well as the legal stage. So we need to make sure that you're seen or seen by the fertility doctor that you'll be cycling with, or at least have tests ordered by that fertility doctor to look into the pertinent numbers and the information that they need to tailor the cycle to you and to how your body responds. And then once that screening is completed and everything looks good, we also do the legal stage of the process. So the intended parents will have an attorney to represent them. You'll have your own attorney, and just make sure that everyone is clear on what the expectations are moving forward. And then the third and final stage is going to be the actual cycling for your donation cycle and the retrieval process. So This part is actually kind of the shortest part of the process, but the most important, obviously. The actual cycling is very, it's a couple weeks, if that, that you're on medication up until that retrieval day. So what we're looking for during the that initial screening process are a few things. So the first is going to be your medical history. We need to look and see how what your personal health is like, if there are any concerns, if there have ever been any concerns on, with your gynecology visits or anything that may pop up as or could potentially be an issue for your health going into the egg donation cycle. We also need to look at your genetic history. So what if anything has been passed down from grandparents to parents, anything that your siblings deal with. So we're looking for things like cancer, cardiac issues, anything that could really be tied to a genetic link that could possibly affect any donor offspring that come from your genetic material. We do a psychological screening. So once your health and your genetic history has been verified, we're going to schedule either an in-person or a video conference call with a psychologist to go over basically the different parts of donation, making sure that you truly understand what everything entails. It's a really good next step or another additional piece of education in the mix that you can be a part of and go through. And then we also want to make sure that if you're married or you have a partner that you live with, that whomever is a big part of your daily life, that they are also included in that so that they can have their questions answered also. And then we will do some initial testing. So one of the tests that is really important in this for matching is going to be your AMH levels. Without getting too scientific, essentially what it is it's a blood test that we will have you complete that looks at both your the quality and quantity of ovarian reserve. So what we're looking for is what is the chance of you having a good success rate, a good number of eggs of good quality that are retrieved during this process. So it's a good scientific benchmark, essentially, that the fertility clinic can look at to make sure that you are a good candidate and that your intended parents will get good results from this cycle. So what can disqualify you from egg donation? Uh, the one thing that I do like to point out is that we're not looking for perfection. Chances are it would, yes, there are going to be some people that have very clean genetic history, but on the same side of that, sometimes it's just a matter of either they don't know everything on their genetic history if there's nothing there, or it's just something where it's kind of luck of the draw. For us, it's more important to make sure that we know what the genetic history is and then look at it and see what risks that could pose to any future offspring, and make sure that we're transparent with the intended parents of anything that may be within that history that could have an effect, and let them make the decision on the benefits of moving forward with you as a donor and any risks that are also there. So it really is all transparency. That's the biggest thing, making sure that we have you as an open book so that the intended parents can make the best decision for themselves alongside their doctor. But some of the basic requirements are going to be between the ages of 21 and 30. We can go higher than 30 if you're an experienced donor, have really good rates of success from past cycles. But as a first timer, it gets harder, the closer to 30 that you get. Your body mass index, which is basically your height to weight ratio, we're going to want to see that at 30 or less. That is going to be very specific to what intended parents are looking for, but that's a decent benchmark for us to have at the onset of screening. We can't see any smoking, so we can't take anyone that smokes any form of nicotine products or any sort of drug use. Those have been shown to show lower success rates with egg donation. So that's important that we don't, qualify someone that could hinder the process based on smoking or drug use. Your AMH level that I talked about, ideally, we want that above 2.5. Again, a lot of, kind of medical mumbo jumbo. But most clinics that we work with, which is how we base these guidelines, are going to want to see that above 2.5. Some will go down to 2. It really depends on the intended parents that we have at any given time that are looking for their match. The ability to travel. So if you don't really have flexibility, then it now might not be the right time for you to undergo this process. But we need to make sure that you are able to travel for typically as a minimum of 3 nights. It could be up to 2 weeks, depending on how stringent the clinic is on wanting you to be close to them for monitoring. So that's going to be something where I just tell people, tell me, be honest with me. How hard is it going to be for you to get time off work or time away from school, time away from family? And we're going to need to tailor your match to your flexibility with that. And also flexibility in your schedule just for appointments. So even if you are staying close by, these appointments can be every day for a week, where they're really closely monitoring your response to the medication. So can you take off, an hour here or there, even if you're close by, from your work schedule? Is that going to be hard to do? Is it going to be better if you can just kind of take a solid week or two off work in order to pursue this? So that flexibility is important. And then, of course, a want and a desire to keep those lines of communication open with the intended parents that you move forward with, and of course with any future donor offspring. Since that is important to Compass's mission, we want to make sure that all of our donors and our intended parents are also in line with that thought process. So what will you be doing? So first thing, shots. And I said this on my video for gestational surrogacy also that I did. These aren't the fun kinds of shots for anyone over the age of 21. I'll make sure that I specify that, but you should be if you're if you're looking into this with Compass. But these are injectable medications that you're going to be taking sometimes multiple times a day, depending on your medication protocol. The nice thing with egg donation is that they do tend to be the smaller shots. We call them belly shots, but they're very little needles that they can cause some irritation. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're painful. It's more so like, oh, okay, I've got to do another shot, but it's not like as anxiety inducing, at least to me, as some of the other shots, like for the surrogacy process, can be at the beginning. So these do have to be done, at least once a day, typically multiple times a day, for about 10 to 14 days during the process. And I promise they aren't that bad. They really aren't that bad, especially after you get the first couple, under your belt, and you realize that it goes a lot faster than you anticipated. Travel, again, I did mention this before, but the chances are going to be very high that the clinic that your intended parents are using is not going to be local to you. So you will have to travel, typically via air, to get there. And then sometimes you may have to go alone if it's, just a quick in and out for a med screening appointment. If you need to be there for longer, then we can look into options of, having you take a companion with you, or even if you're like, okay, I would love my alone time to veg and just kind of chill in a hotel. But maybe I want to bring a companion just for a couple of days around the retrieval process. So that's fine too. But regardless, the travel costs will be covered by your intended parents. So that's not something that, will ever be on your shoulders or a cost that you have to absorb. But that will be part of your involvement within this. We also have the legal commitment. So the one thing with a known egg donation especially is that we want to make sure that we have your own legal representation for the journey as well as the intended parents, just because especially with the parties knowing each other, it's pertinent that everyone is on board, like I had said, prior, and everyone knows what each other's expectations are for, especially for communication, both during and after the process. So that legal contract is very important to have drawn up and put into place before we actually move into the cycle. And then constant communication. So this isn't even just between like you and the intended parents, but this is going to be constant communication with the agency, with your clinic, with your legal team. In this process, it is extremely time sensitive. Things could go awry with missing things by even just a couple hours. So it's very important that you can remain in constant communication with all parties during this process, especially when you are actually cycling, to make sure that we're not missing steps, that you're adjusting those dosages as needed depending on how your body is responding, that you're making it to each and every appointment on time. So that's all of that is kind of encompassed into that cycling process. And so it's just I'd like to point that out because it is something that you can't necessarily be a bystander with this process. You really do need to kind of take that initiative, ask questions, and be sure that you're ready. Be sure that you've cleared up your schedule to make it to those appointments and work things around your schedule as needed. So the timeline. So honestly, the longest phase for this process is going to be that match and waiting for the match. So with egg donation, of course, especially with known donation, they are looking for that connection or that, I guess something to click between their donor and the intended parents. But there's also going to be a lot of like physical and personality characteristics and traits that they're going to be looking for that maybe mirror themselves if you're going to be working with an intended mom, or maybe mirror a sister or a family member, or their family in general. So we're needing to look for that genetic compatibility too, and then just all those little nuances about your personality and what really draws them to you and draws you to them. And so that process can take a while. It could take maybe up to 6 months even to find that first right match. And the good news is that if you are wanting to do this more than once, or if you've been a donor in the past and we've got those results as to how that donation worked for you, that process worked for you, it can actually be much faster for a future journey, just because it gives the parents a little bit of a safety net, knowing how that last journey went for you and what the chances of success are for your upcoming journey with them. So I tell people, if this is something that you might be open to doing for more than one family, the first wait can take a little bit of time, but then as we're looking into future matches, it can happen very quickly. I know personally, I had to wait. I think it was actually closer to 7 months for my first match for egg donation. But then I ended up donating 4 times within a year period after that. So it just kind of like, went really fast after that. It's just needing a little bit of patience for that first one. And then once you're matched, you'll have a commitment of about 2 to 3 months. It just really depends on how long it takes to get your medical screening process completed, and then how long that legal process takes for you personally. I would say that it depends on your legal team a little bit and what their workload is like, and when that process finishes, and how long it takes for you and your intended parents to review the contracts. But 2 to 3 months is kind of a good estimate for the average journey length. And then like I said, the actual cycling and retrieval portion, it's quite short. Once we have your legal clearance to your clinic, and we're like, okay, they're ready to go. Um, it really is like you can get your calendar for cycling to start within like a week or two of that. And then the actual cycling is about 10 to 14 days that you're on medication and then rolling into that retrieval. So it's all those kind of building blocks before leading up to it that can take a little bit of time. And so, and like I said, the most time intensive. So it's not that it takes the most time, but it's so it takes up your time so much is going to be that process during cycling. So that's when you're going to want to make sure that you kind of clear out your calendar of other obligations or whatnot, that you're communicating with the clinic on anything that you might have coming up. So if you know that you've got like a vacation or a trip or a birthday or a graduation to go to, or whatever the case may be, make sure the clinic is aware of each and every event coming up in your life so that they can tailor your cycling calendar to your least busy time, so that we can make sure that you don't have anything coming up that could kind of hinder that timing of the process. So if you want, any more information, or if you want to talk to me about your specific situation, or if you have any other questions about your health history that you're maybe worried about, or you just have questions about, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to set up just a video chat similar to this, and we can go over those questions. Or if you're ready to kind of jump in and fill out your application, I'm more than happy to send you that link too. You can check out our website. It's compassfamilyjourneys.com, or shoot an email over to me. It's family@compassfamilyjourneys.com. And I am so happy that you could join us here on this Halloween morning, and hopefully you learned a little bit more information about the process. And I hope you have a great Halloween night and a great rest of your week.